Hello, look what arrived today. These are test pressings of my new album, ZOiD Vs Musicians Volume 2. It's a blank white record. So I'm going to tell you the story of the process of putting the music onto the vinyl, in case you're interested in putting your music on vinyl. This is how you do it. So it all started 17 years ago. Now it didn't, but it kind of did. The music on this record, it's called ZOiD Vs Musicians Volume 2 because it's the second volume of my first album, which was called ZOiD Vs the Jazz Musicians of Ireland Volume 1. I dropped out the words jazz and Ireland from the title because not all the musicians were Irish or jazz musicians. So ZOiD Vs Musicians, and it's easier to say and catchier. I started in 2007, 17 years ago. The concept took this long. I kept working on it and it finally got finished last year. So last year when I was deciding what format to put the album out in, at first I was just thinking I'll just do a digital release because that is the cheapest way to put your music out. You don't really need to spend any money to put it, release it on DistroKid and release it on bandcamp, and you might pay an artist to make a digital little image for the release. You might just do it yourself, and it's quick and it's easy, and your DistroKid fee is like $35 a year or something. It's really, there's very little to stop you just doing a digital release and saving all your money. But when the project is one that took this long to do, and you've been thinking about it for this long, 17 years, then you don't mind, well, I didn't mind putting some money into doing a physical release. So there were my options: cassette, CD, vinyl. Of all those options, personally my favorite's vinyl. I have a record collection that I'm very attached to. I don't want to get rid of my records. I like my records very much. I don't have the same feeling for cassettes or CDs. I did own some cassettes, I own some CDs. They're gone. I don't know where they are. I still have I have about 5 CDs out of all the CDs I ever bought. Oh no, tell a lie, I've got a CD pouch somewhere from the attic or something. I don't really care about it, to be honest. My CDs are, to me, digital format on CD is barely any difference because the information on the CD is just digital files. I may as well store them on my computer, store them in the cloud, whatever. Stream them off the cloud even. It doesn't really seem that different in my mind. Even if you have the jewel case, they get broken. I don't like the jewel cases. It's just, I don't like the format. Cassettes, yeah. I used to buy cassettes. That was how old I am. I owned some cassettes. I can't even remember now. I used to have my parents' front room. We had bookshelves and there was tape cassettes. They still have some up there. Maybe some of mine up there. I need to check them out. But I'm trying to remember now, when I was a teenager, we bought cassettes. I don't really remember buying a lot, but we always recorded mixes on cassettes, DJ mixes. This is in the 90s, mid to late 90s. We always used cassettes for things like just mixtapes, like putting your favorite songs. Some of the most important music collections for me personally were mixtapes that my friends made and gave to me. Like Barry Kingston made me a tape with, let's say, electro on one side and Tekra on the other side. And it was like a mixture of things like Bach and Felt and Tekra and this amazing warp and reflex kind of stuff. I remember how strange and alien it sounded to me, because that was probably when I was like 14 or something, 13, 14. I'd just been listening to like very commercial rock bands and stuff before, a lot of Jimi Hendrix, things like that. And this new music sounded so alien, and at first really weird. It took me ages to start to get my head around it, but I did, and I started loving it, and I still love it to this day. But so thanks, Barry. But anyways, back to the vinyl thing. So I chose vinyl. Probably about a year ago, I thought I'll make a record and release it on my label ZOiD Tracks. ZOiD Tracks is a label I created to release my own music and some music that I like. I've released 2 other artists, Caleb Peinado's a live album and his first album, Music for Esports, and also Gyazai Gyozo, 2 EPs, one called Mutant Tank, which came out at the end of September, and one called Neon Nights, which is coming out on the 25th of October. All of that, plus all of my own releases, have all been digital so far, but I'm decided to make a vinyl for my album, ZVMV2. I call it that for short. About a year ago I decided, and from that point on, there have been many steps along the way to get here, to the test pressing, which is obviously not the final step. I have to listen to this, and I don't have a turntable because I gave my turntable away because we were moving from Ireland to the UK, and I had to get rid of stuff. And I didn't love the turntable. It wasn't a great one. It was like a Gemini. It was a Gemini. It was a decent, but it wasn't like amazing. So I gave that to Volume Records in Dún Laoghaire. If you're in Dún Laoghaire, pop into Volume Records and have a listen to some records on my turntable, my old turntable. And I'm really going off topic. Yeah, so I have to approve the test pressings, but I can't because I don't have a turntable. So I'll be going to a friend's house to listen to this over the weekend, and then I'll be approving it, and then the final steps will happen. It will get pressed up, it will get sent to the distributor. I got distribution from Rubadub, Glasgow. It's limited to 100 pressings, they'll all go up there. Rubadub will send me down whatever, a few, and then we'll start to sell them they'll sell them to shops, I'll sell them to you. Buy one, please. Okay, so to back up, a year ago when I decided to put the music onto vinyl, I think one of the first things I did was I started to think about the artwork. Obviously very important. The artist who did the front cover for the CD in 2007 for ZOiD Vs Musicians Volume 1 was Shane Ingersoll, who I knew from Ireland. At first, he's got a big family, and I know all his siblings, the Ingersolls. There's Joey, Rachel, Sarah, Cole. Yeah, there's 5 of them. So Shane's the closest to my age, but his older brother Cole, you don't need to know all this information, but it's funny. But I met Cole when I was like probably around 13, 14, when me and a couple of friends were skateboarding near my house, and this big tall American guy was going past with his skateboard, and he saw us skating, and he came up and he was like, "Hi, can I hang out with you guys?" Something to that effect, which was very rare in Ireland. Really, you never had people just come up and say, "Can I hang out with you?" In fact, a couple of years earlier, we'd seen some other people skateboarding like in another, like 5 minutes away from my house around Baker's Corner, and like instead of just going up to them and saying, "Can we hang out with you guys?" we kind of spent like months skating nearby, and then like a little closer, and it literally took like probably 4 months before we even said anything to them. was like, we just had to engineer this whole thing of skate here, and then the next day a little closer and see what they're up to, and you know, gradually over time we like, oh, how's it going? Just well, we're great at like meeting new people or making friends, but Cole was really good at it. He was more used to it, and he was American, and he was more extroverted. But later on, I found out he hadn't just been walking by; he'd been in the car with Finine actually, and Shane maybe, or Sarah was there, I think. But they were driving by, and he'd seen us, and he was like, "Let me out!" So he hopped out and went over to meet us. So we became good friends, and I met all his siblings. His sibling Shane is a very talented artist, Shane Ingersoll. Check out his stuff. He does other covers of her. Bandcamp Daily did a kind of feature on him actually a couple months back. So check that out, Shane Ingersoll Bandcamp. That'll come up. So I contacted Shane and I told him Volume 2, will you do it? He said yes. We agreed a fee, and I started working on. Right, I just like did this kind of, let me see if I can find it. So I drew this mock-up. This is what I've done for Volume 1 as well. I just drew this, I'm really bad, I just drew this kind of 12 panel comic book. I'll auction this off one day maybe. There's a whole storyline there. This is my concept is set in Dublin 2116. So we changed it. So it's Dublin 2116. Roughly 100 years from now. And there's a big war going on. You can see there's like soldiers fighting with lasers and whatnot, future weapons. And then it goes, which way does it go? Yeah, it goes that way. So then in underground bunkers, where things happen. And then the ZOiD musicians are fully integrated robotic biological humanoids with DNA and neural link up to supreme universal consciousness. So they're like computers, but with some kind of consciousness in them. And they have 12 fingers for playing more notes on their futuristic saxophones. And they Zim, all right, one of these robots has developed, like Zimmy's descendant or whatever. He's developed a new language for tenor sax, operating at BPMs well above 16 billion gigahertz. So Zim's playing this jazz at 16 million gigahertz, and far away in Triangulum 2. Can't remember where I got that name, but somewhere. It's a planet with 3 moons. This is a satellite dish, right? Well, we're picking up a signal from the Milky Way. They're like, surveying the universe for signals, and they pick up this signal of Zim playing the sax at 16 million gigahertz, and it seems to be some kind of language. The Triangulumians, they set up in their crazy looking spaceship. And then Battlefield, the Triangulumian, whatever they're called, they land down on the battlefield, and all the soldiers on both sides are like, look, because at that point, obviously, Earth has not made contact yet. Okay, we still don't know if there's any life outside Earth. And then the Triangulumians, they come down, they say, beings of Earth, we have received your signal and have brought you one of our own. And then ship transforms to giant speaker cones and emits 120 dBs of sound. I was gonna make it like a lot more dBs of sound, but then it would like kill people who were nearby. So it's 120 dB, it's really loud. And then it's heard all over Earth because they have special technology which carries the sound all around. And everyone who hears puts down their weapons, all the soldiers, and Earth is saved for now. That's my story. So that's what I came up with for the story of the artwork. You can see I was influenced by having a robot who plays the saxophone, but imagining this future scene. Anyway, someone signed me up for a film deal for that. Anyway, the next thing, so Shane I sent him that and he was like, cool, he started working on it. Then the music was getting finished, but I had to finish the tracks and then get them mastered. And that didn't happen until much later in the year. I think in December I was finishing the tracks. No, it dragged on because I added more tracks. I kept on adding tracks until there were 13 tracks. Oh, the boilers come on, it's probably going to be really loud. Anyway. So I had 13 tracks, but you can't fit that much music on a vinyl. I could have had a double LP, and maybe I should have, but that would have made it a good bit more expensive. I didn't want it to be that expensive to buy. So I thought what I did was I have a mailing list with about 200 people on it. You can join it. And I sent them all an email and said, here I gave a Dropbox, or not a disco link, where they could stream all the tracks of the album. They weren't completely finished at that point, but I said, look, I set up a kind of a thing. What was it? It was like a survey-ish thing where they clicked a link and then they could arrange the order of the tracks from their favorite at the top, like explaining that I was letting them choose which tracks made it onto the record, because I didn't want to. I just left it up to them. So I was really glad I did that, actually, because it was really hard to choose from the 13 tracks which ones would go on the vinyl itself. I, in the end, could fit 7 tracks on the vinyl. So we have 3 on the A and 4 on the B side. I was supposed to check. The A and B side was right. You can't see where it says A or B. Yes, it's correct. So there's 4 tracks on the B. Okay. So the other 6 tracks that didn't make it on the vinyl, those ones are going to be available digitally when you buy the record. You buy the record, you get the other 6 tracks as well to download. Or you can get it all in bandcamp, whatever. Alright, so that's how I decided which tracks will go on the record. Then, after that, once the tracks were completely finished, I can't remember exactly when that was now, because I kept on changing my mind about certain tracks and trying to improve them, and I just wanted to release it this year. I didn't have like a strict deadline. Well, I didn't want to release it in December, that would be too late, so November. So I was working backwards from there. I just needed enough time, so as long as it was done by the end of the summer, I could release it by November. So I got the tracks professionally mastered by Bob Humid in Cologne, Germany, I believe, and really glad to work with him. I met him through, he masters Dan Curtin's tracks, and he did an amazing job on the record, Metamorphic record that I did for Dan Curtin's label. So I was like, oh, I'll use Bob. And when you use a really good mastering engineer, it does, especially for a project like this, it's just another level of detail that you're gonna go to. But Bob's really good to work with because he'll be like, here you go, what do you think of this? And if there's anything that needs to change in the track, he'll let you know and you can send back a different version. So the vinyl tracks had a vinyl master and a digi master. It's slightly different, so it's great to work with someone who's very used to mastering for vinyl. He knows what to do. He's got kind of special file formats that he does the whole A side and the whole B side, so when it gets sent to the plant, it's very easy for them not to mess anything up. They get the spacing right between the tracks, all these details. There's a ton of stuff. So I got all the mastered stuff by round about, okay, it was August the 12th August the 12th. So it was the end of July when I got all the stuff back from the mastering. Actually, it was pretty close in around August the 12th. It was like I was getting the tracks back and I wanted to send them immediately, because when I checked out, I checked out a few different plants, but when I checked out Press On Vinyl, they said you have to leave this much amount of time, which was 10 weeks from the point where you have given them all your files, artwork and audio. 10 weeks after that, you get your records. So it was like leaving a week or so either side for delays. You know, I definitely wanted to get the records by the early November, so they're ready to go November 22nd. So that was a good deadline to have. So August 12th is when I actually paid the pressing plant, and I went with a translucent vinyl with purple marbling and a full color front and back. Of course, just to give it the best spin. Can't remember how much it was now, but it was not cheap. Obviously, it's expensive. 100 records, they were going to cost me, what was it? I have to check it out. Anyway, working it out as to like how much money I'd get back, I could sell them all for like 30 quid each and I'd make a profit, but obviously I wasn't going to sell 100 myself. When did I get the distribution deal? I already had the distribution deal with Rub It Up because I'd sent them the finished tracks, and I sent it to a few distributors, and Rub It Up said yes. I was super happy about that. Really happy, actually. I was over the moon about that because I'd never gotten a distribution deal before, and once I've gotten this one in, hopefully I'll keep doing it. Yeah, because it was a really long-term project, 17 years, I did pull out all the stops to make it look and sound great. And I thought, whatever comes back in, maybe it's not going to break even. I don't think a lot of records break even these days. If you break even, it's like making a big profit a few years ago. Breaking even is the 2024 version of making a big profit in 1995. So screw it. I mean, putting this record out is definitely about a lot more than just the money that went into it. Obviously, the record itself is more visible in record stores where people might hear it. It's about raising the profile of ZOiD and the project. So far, I don't know how well it's working out. I since then put out a digital, I released two singles. There's another one coming next week, and been doing all the usual social media posts, and did a promo run. There's a promo company, Hype Filter, that I use. That's for where I send them the music and the press release, and they put it on Fat Drop and send it to their DJ list, DJ and radio. That's where DJs and radio people listen to the music and leave a feedback if they like it. Or if they don't, sometimes they say, not for me, and they give you a star rating and pick their favorite track. So sometimes they're like, 2 stars, not for me, or so 1 star, or no thanks. Sometimes they say that, fair enough. Most of the feedback I got was really good. 4 stars, 5 stars, a lot of like, wow, this is amazing. Like people like Turbo Jazz and who else? Fish Go Deep and Ontave Tool, Kevin, loads of, and Sherry Vary, loads of Ceci. It's great getting feedback. I mean, it's really nice. I don't know if these DJs actually played the music or not, because I have no way of knowing if they did. Which is kind of, there's a little bit like it fizzles out when you don't get the proof, you don't get much of a momentum to it. So I also was like constantly sending it to people that I know, DJs, radio, press, whatever, and because I was doing like the bulk of the PR myself, just from contacts that built up, and then it's still kind of early to tell. I've got like a good few press people. My friend Niamh helped me a lot, great journalist Niamh O'Connor, with some pointers and some kind of guidance. Also, my friend Nadia wrote the press release, which was great. So that was really good, very professional. So all of those things helped me send out the press release and the music to lots of people, and I heard back from a good few. So hopefully there'll be some press coming out next month with the album, and more DJs will play it. It's gotten some radio play, we'll get more, and there'll be a bit of a boost now when Rub-a-Dub starts to do the pre-sales, and I'll start doing the pre-sales on my bandcamp, and we'll be constantly pushing it from now till November 22nd when it comes out. Hopefully in 2-3 weeks I'll get the actual record, and I'll show it to you what it looks like with all the artwork and everything, and the lovely translucent thing. But first I have to listen to it and then approve it. So that was a very, very roundabout story of the making of ZOiD Vs Musicians Volume 2. Questions in the comments. Should you do it? I do not know. If you spent 17 years making an album, definitely then. But if you just cooked up a track in your bedroom last week and you're like, should I put it on vinyl? It's super expensive and you probably won't make the money back. But if you really want to do it right, and who knows what'll happen. Hopefully this will be the start of some more physical releases for ZOiD tracks. I'm not sure yet, let's see. But if I could build up an audience for ZOiD tracks and sell 500 records or 1,000 records, like Red Rackham's doing, he's selling records now. Okay, see ya.